We'll get started being 5:30. So I'll begin the council meeting, the first one for the year for 2025, being Tuesday, 28th of January. And I note that we have our wonderful councillors here. Good to see you all. Thank you. We do have an apology from Councillor Stacey. Beginning of the meeting, I always start with our acknowledgement. Devonport City Council acknowledges and pays respects to the Palawa Pakana people as the traditional and original owners of Lutruwita and continuing custodians of this land on which we gather. We also acknowledge and pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal elders past and present. Can I read out the new term there? Yes? Yes. The legislative terminology. No, that's right. Yeah. So, no problem at all. All persons in attendance are advised that it is council policy to record council meetings in accordance with council's digital recording policy. The digital recording of this meeting will be made available to the public on council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. The meeting will also be live streamed on council's YouTube channel. So continuing on, as I said, the apologies was Councillor Sheen. Any declarations of interest for this meeting? From the councillors? No, we'll move on. Thank you very much. So item 3 is procedural. 3.1 is the confirmation of minutes. If I can have a mover, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. And Councillor Viney?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
As already stated, Mayor, just an interesting.
Thank you. And Councillor Viney?
Yeah, procedural, thanks, Mayor. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? No. Thank you. Councillor Murphy, closed.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 3.2 is public question time. 3.2.1 is responses to questions raised at prior meetings. There are nil. 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public, and there are no questions. 3.2.3 is questions without notice from the public. So therefore, if there is anybody from the gallery that would like to come up and ask any questions tonight, please do so. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Douglas Janney, 23 Watkinson Street, Devonport. Question 1. Why wasn't the Australia Day Awards and the citizenship ceremony held on Australia Day?
If I may answer that direct to you, because council have decided that they're doing their events outside of the actual day itself. Therefore, people can go and enjoy Australia Day. We have the ceremony outside of that date.
What are you going to do on Anzac Day?
I'm sorry?
Well, Anzac Day, Australia Day is a specific day. Anzac Day is a specific day.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to do on Anzac Day? Have it before or after or on the day?
No, the OSL run that event with council's support, and they always have it on the day.
Thank you.
Thank
Question 2. The intersection at Fenton and Best Streets is raised up for traffic calming. Instead of more, why not the depressions large and small in the various streets fixed up?
Would you clarify a little bit more the depressions?
Yes. Well, there are big ones. You come along the waterfront there before you get to the lights, and there are 2 huge ones.
3.
Okay. And there's a lot of others around the town that need attention.
The general manager will answer that again.
Yeah, it's 3 minutes. Yeah, no, Mr. Jenny's comments. It's an opinion as much as a question.
Thank you.
So when are you going to do it?
3 there. We have a service level where different depressions and things need addressing. They do. We've had ongoing dialogue with Mr. Jenny around different views around when we should intervene with those. But yeah, we continue to, we're not making any change to our current service level. We're addressing it where we need to. We also note that often those depressions are a result of Taswater assets, Telstra assets, or other utility providers that have things in the road that result in uneven road service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question 3. What consideration has the council given to replacement vehicles being electric powered?
Looking at that currently at the moment. Jeffrey Griffiths will give you an answer to that.
Through you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Jenny, the council commenced investing in electric vehicles about 2 years ago. And is currently adding to that fleet as vehicles come up for renewal. One of the annual plan actions that we have for this year is the development of a zero emissions fleet implementation and adoption strategy. So going forward, the council will continue to make those investments, not only in EV fleet vehicles, but plant equipment that's used at the depot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year, Mr. Dunn.
Hello, Mayor. Yes, Happy New Year, everybody. Nothing go, thought they might drive mine better. Got a little humble pie tonight, Mayor, but I appreciate it. A reference to my questions 1 and 3 without notice, and the Mayor and the General Manager's response on page 3 and 4 of the minutes of the December 24 meeting. I just wish to clarify the following matters for the record. In relation to my question 1, and this is very important to correct, my agreement with the Mayor's comment that the questions related to matters in 2016 as minuted was a misunderstanding on my part, as none of the questions asked related to 2016. And question 1 was actually in relation to the Waterfront Parkland redevelopment contract commenced around October 2019, with the last variation claim agreed around the time of the last defect liability period, which expired in April 2024. I had unsuccessfully attempted to extract answers to the question similar regarding the possible delay and delay costs during that contract. Not having been successful led to an RTI request being submitted on the 27th of February 2024 and 6th of August 2024, and it now resides with the Ombudsman for external review of the General Manager's statement that all documentation has been provided, along with the determination that the head contract document between Council and Boss Constructions and Joinery not be released. So clearly question 1 without notice related to a contract only fully finalised in early 2024. And I apologise for not picking up on that at the time and making it clear at the last meeting. So accordingly, will you, Mayor, include this statement in tonight's meeting minutes to correct an error not of Council's making in the minutes of the December 2024 meeting? And if not clarified now, it'll remain a very misleading record.
That's no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in relation to the General Manager's response to question 3, which was actually a question directed to councillors, did indirectly relate to contract signed between June 2016 and August 2019, as contained within an RTI request dated the 22nd of May 2022, with all documents since instructed to be released in full by the Ombudsman in September 2024, with that decision being the subject matter of questions 2 and 3 last meeting. The General Manager stated, and I quote, referred to 2 reasonings from the Ombudsman that led to the decision from the information to be released relating to the passage of time, and that many of the leases and contracts were no longer in existence. The GM statement needs to be put into proper context, as on my reviewing of the Ombudsman's decision 2208-006 dated 8th of September 24, while there was mention, the Ombudsman did not state it as being a primary reason for directing documents to be released in full. In fact, the Ombudsman went to great lengths to explain why Council's interpretations of the Act, an Act described by the Ombudsman as having an overarching pre-disclosure focus, was rejected by him. Will you, Mayor, include this statement in tonight's meeting minutes to put into context the General Manager's statement, which I don't believe was made with an intent to mislead, as recorded in the minutes of the December 24 meeting, and if not clarified now, will remain a very misleading record?
So is that your question for me, or is it a
Yeah.
statement you want to?
Will you include this statement in tonight's meeting minutes to put it into context what the Mayor said? That was the General Manager's statement.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Mayor, and firstly, this is question 3. Firstly, I ask that all councillors consider this. A right to information request submitted by me to Council on the 22nd of May 2022, including the release of the Memorandum of Agreement between Council and Fairbrothers Pty Limited for the sale of council-owned land and a 2-year exclusivity arrangement with Fairbrother to facilitate the waterfront hotel development, and the head lease contract between Fairbrother and Council for Stage 1 of Living City was rejected. According to the Ombudsman in his decision of the 18th of September 2024, the MOU expired almost 3 years earlier in October 2019. And records since released as directed by the Ombudsman show that the Stage 1 contract, including defect liability period, had expired in August 2019. Again, almost 3 years earlier than the date of the RTI for the release of those documents, which was rejected by the General Manager in July 2022. Will you, Mayor, or the General Manager, as the nominated RTI Principal Officer, advise in general terms, I'm not asking about that RTI, that is all a matter of fact, it's a matter of record, it's all there, it all stacks up. But will you advise in general terms, just how long does Council expect such documents to be kept secret from the public? And I might note, there's a 10-year limit on documents in closed session which become available on request after the initial establishment of those records. So, just in general terms, how long does Council expect such documents to be kept secret from the public?
Through you, Mayor, any RTI request we assess in accordance with the legislation. That's our answer.
But the legislation.
Sorry, we're aware of the 10-year statutory timeframe. I think some of the documents we're talking about are actually getting close, being actually exceeded that period now. But anyway, we assess it in accordance with the Act.
There's a number of documents in closed session that could be asked for. Yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. You've asked your question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you're consistently going to send people around the world and you don't believe you should release them when they've expired. Thank you.
The point. Anybody else from the gallery like to ask any questions? We'll move on. Thank you. So 3.3 is questions on notice from councillors. There are none. 3.4, notice of motions. There are nil. 4 is the planning authority matters. So I'll now announce that council intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for the consideration of all reports under agenda section 4. And we have 4.1, which is 11 Fenton Street, Devonport. If I could ask, if there's the recommendation there, if I could ask for a mover, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy, and a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Pollister. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, this one has come to council and has been somewhat contentious with respect to attracting some media attention and a number of representations. However, from a planning perspective, the council planning officers have been diligent in their responsibilities as planning professionals and have provided us with fairly robust advice with respect to this particular development application. Obviously, there's a number of other steps that need to occur in this process, but I think there needs to be some recognition with respect to dealing with some of the representations that, from a planning perspective, whilst they may not be relevant, I think this will be a positive development for Devonport and a continuation of the growth that we see as a city. There has been words mentioned such as ghetto, etc., etc. However, I think that inner city living is something that this council has been advocating for some period of time. As part of Living City, that was always an aspiration. It will only contribute to the activity and the vibrancy of the city, irrespective of some of the negative comment that has been provided. So therefore, I commend the recommendation to my fellow councillors to support.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, I support the recommendation as well. I think there's been some hills which I believe the planners have answered adequately. I think it's a good development. We want to see more of it around the city. Inner city living, I think, is very important to the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the councillors? Councillor Pliny.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for my fellow councillors for their comments as well. Tend to agree with a lot of what's already been said. I think the media has maybe built this up and trying to push some contention into it, but the stark reality is that when you're looking at it through a planning lens, then it does tick the necessary boxes. I think some of the concerns that I read about in the representations are valid, and they're things that I immediately thought of as well. One of them just sort of visualising 30 units on a regular building block seems a lot, but when you break it down, there's 6 units and it's 5 stories or 5 floors high. Like, it does make sense, and obviously the space is there and available for it. If we think about 5 floors and the height that structure would look at, and trying to picture it in that space, like, it is, again, it seems like it's a lot, but I think it's prescribed that it can be no more than 20 metres from a planning point of view, and it comes in under that. So again, it ticks that box. 11 parking spots, question marks on that. Is that enough for potentially 30 residents, or if there's more than one person in a unit? That would seem like it's not enough, but you dig deeper and, potentially some of those occupants, or the majority of the occupants, perhaps don't even own a car or want a car. If I think back to when my dear old grandmother, Mickey, went into a small unit, she never drove, so she didn't have a car. And if you think about where the placement is, where you could live without a car, it's pretty much ideal because you can walk to everything. And I know there's probably some negative connotations with what the closest establishment is to that place, but you know what else you can walk to? The library, or you could walk to Service Tasmania, or you could walk to a coffee shop and catch up with friends. So there's lots of benefits to that location. And for people that are visiting and worried about parking, I did this myself on the weekend. I parked in our multi-storey car park with I trialled it, real trial, with 2 young boys on scooters, and we walked from the car park to the side. It's 100 metres to multiple parking. So I don't buy into that parking argument. For the people that already live on Newton Street, yeah, it's going to be a change, and perhaps there'll be more cars up there and potentially more traffic. But walking around that quiet street, like, anything added to that would feel like a substantial change. And all of the properties on Newton Street that I noticed had multiple off-street parking positions. So I'd like to think they'll be okay. I also will echo what Councillor Murphy said, that this is pretty much in step with our higher density strategy that we passed last year. And it's a shame that the Deputy Mayor is here to talk on that, because it fits right in the wheelhouse of what we're trying to encourage in our city. And again, if you think about the location and the neighbours, like, there's not many spots where you could have like not really any neighbours, immediate neighbours, boundary neighbours. I mean, you've got a car yard or a car park behind it, and a church over the road, and an office building with lawyers next door. I mean, doesn't seem much more ideal than that. And if I could just reiterate that there's probably some negative connotations about the type of people that live in a position like this. For someone that has had trouble finding somewhere to live overseas, like sometimes that's the first step. Like you get an address, you get somewhere to live, then you've got the ability to get mail, and you've got the ability to be safe and get a job. So sometimes it's the first step for change. And if I could finish up, so I was talking to someone I met today who's about my age. He's a single young professional in the city. He's moved back from Melbourne, not dissimilar to me, and he said he'd live there. That's somewhere that he would be attracted. He's trying to get into the property market. He doesn't need a 3-bedroom house. He just needs a start. And I think there's plenty of people in the community that would agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the councillors? Councillor Wojcinski? Sorry.
Thanks, Mayor. I understand and I agree with Councillor Viney and some of Mr. Murphy's, Councillor Murphy's opinions. I understand the concerns of the opponents in the DA application because they've lived in a really quiet cul-de-sac. But it's really difficult as for councillors and council when we are acting as a planning authority. So we are bound to ensure all the planning guidelines, and our hardworking staff has done that. So we are in the correct area. It is right for the city. Yes, personally, I would have liked 4 stories and probably a bit of more architecture to the building. How it looks, yes, Councillor Viney, we had a discussion about that. But it also allows the people who want to start their life in housing or to buy, because it's affordable housing and social housing. It's not just all social housing. But it doesn't matter if we do need housing, and it does fit with our trying to grow our area. I've been undecided and I really want to listen to anyone else with it. But we've done the right thing. We are doing it through the guidelines that is actually given to us, and it is needed out there in society. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Look, I agree. Many of the things, opinions and feelings we have don't matter with the planning guidelines. I mean, they matter to us and they matter to people, but we need to follow what's right in the guidelines, and does it fit? It's been assessed as yes, it fits. So whilst some people may or may not like it, we have to live with it under the guidelines.
Thank you. Mr. Law.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll be in support of this. Purely it fits within the planning authority and all the conditions. Just a couple of little comments. One is I read through all the representations and I understand lots of the points of view, but I do think that we need to be more understanding and maybe more educated on the people that may be living in these units. Tasmania, we have a terrible housing shortage, which our council was mandated with to help development go through for developments exactly like this. We were asked to get more housing in the city, and that's what we're doing. And second of all, Tasmania, for example, as a percentage, our state turns away 6 times any other state people in domestic violence from housing situations. So these are the kind of people that will also hopefully be able to get into the social and affordable housing. It's not as as some of the representation said, which was people that all suffer with addiction, etc., etc. I'd just like us to be open to, it's actually a big range of people that will hopefully live in these kind of places. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thought very hard about this one, had a look at the sites and thought about the parking, about the quietness of the cul-de-sac and what that would mean. I worry about only 11 car parks. As well as we talk about 30 flats. If you have 2 people living in there, what is the percentage of ownership of cars? Yes, we look at the census, tells us that it is very low, especially in Tasmania. So the odds are that you probably will need minimal access to parking for vehicles. On the positive side, there's access to services within a stone's throw of those demographic that may live in those houses, access to health services, access to transport, access to eateries, such as coffee shops, as Councillor Viney has said. We've got to look at the point of as well when we talk about diversity of people from different backgrounds. And, you know, there is a large percentage of people out there that are aspirational of trying to get themselves and lift themselves up by their bootstraps. And all they need is a little bit of a start, safe environment, a doorway foundation to a start to enable them to get them ready to hopefully re-enter the workforce or take up opportunities that are around them. And I think within this precinct it offers a bit of safety. Police station's just up the road. There's people walking around the streets which can deter any bad misbehaviour on most occasions. Of course, there is on occasion some misbehaviour, but we can't brand those people who are looking for a start that may be using these types of housing. It should be taken out of the equation. This is an opportunity to house people that are in need, whether it's from domestic violence, whether it's from unemployment, whether it's from being young people just looking for a start for affordable housing. And we need to provide that opportunity for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your valid reasoning and having empathy for the representations too. I really appreciate that. This is a really good development, and I hope to see more. The walkability that it allows for people to, if they're going to live in these dwellings, is going to help people that don't have access to vehicles or can't own a car or haven't been able to get their licence. And there are 2 primary schools and a high school very close by. So if they start a family, they've even got that access as well to continue on and being part of the neighbourhood. It frees up rentals. This is what we're trying to do to help the housing crisis. If we start with these developments, this is going to then free up those that are in rentals, possibly could move into this situation that it suits them more, and then frees up rentals for those that need it. It's certainly a start, and I think it's going to be probably a legacy of Devonport because we're growing. It's a city that is growing, and we have to grow in the right way. Apartment living is a no-brainer when you're in a big city like Melbourne, and yet they're starting to do it. There's so much more in Launceston, and they're crying out for it and wanting to do more. So we're just starting that ball game rolling, and this is where we're going to be. I can remember being in the apartments opposite Kmart back in the 70s, and Kmart was just a horse paddock, and we thought that apartment was huge, and it was so unusual. And then they stopped building them. Well, now we're starting to build them again. And I think this is the way forward. We've got the old bowl site now, going to have some development happening in there. Again, walkability, access to the CBD, close to all the amenities. It's just going to work. So I certainly understand the representations. We certainly do read them and we do empathise. However, as a planning authority, we have to let this be looked at on those factors only. And this is what we do as a council. So I would ask Councillor Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some clarification. Tasmanian statewide planning scheme is a really lengthy document, but it's not a set of guidelines. It's actually, when it comes to these type of developments, provides a criteria that must be met. Guidelines can be interpreted one way or another. A criteria either needs to have an acceptable solution or it doesn't meet the criteria. So it's a fairly stringent document that expert planners have provided us with professional advice on. I think the other thing that needs to be considered is that the current demographic for social and affordable housing are single females over the age of 55. Now, I'm not too sure what sort of an unruly influence that they are going to have from a socio-economic demographic in this particular precinct. Again, it's the opportunity to provide some safe and secure housing for the most vulnerable. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Around the parking issue, the council has more than ample enough off-street and on-street parking to meet the requirements of development. Also considering that it meets the criteria or the acceptable solution for the site sitting in a CBD zone, which doesn't require under the scheme to provide any parking at all. The fact that they've provided 11 is a bonus. And then we have to consider what's considered in real estate terms the cycle of life living, where young people looking to get into the market, the real estate market, may start off in a one-bedroom apartment, that they can potentially purchase for $250,000 to $280,000, which is affordable. They may live there for 2 to 3 years. They then decide to get engaged and get married, decide that one-bedroom apartment's not big enough. They've already paid down some interest or capital off that particular property. They then go and buy, say, a 2-bedroom unit, whether it's in that particular building site or another building site. But what it does is it provides them the ability to utilise the capital they have from not only just capital growth, but the interest or the principal they've paid down to get into that property. Subsequently, they can rent that property out and they have an asset that's paying for itself. That provides them financial security moving forward, because potentially they go to the 2-bedroom one, they decide to have a family, but then they want to buy a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house. I think we need to take all these things into consideration when we are forming social views around who may or may not be occupying these types of properties. But it'll be interesting to see how the vote goes. I will be supporting the recommendation as it sits.
Thanks, Councillor Murphy. The councillors, I ask all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5 is reports. 5.1 is the model dispute resolution policy. All the information is there. If I could have a mover, please, of the recommendation. Councillor Hollister and Councillor Martin. Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
I just hope that the local government act put through Parliament to sort of this out. It's been a can of worms in the past. So hopefully it'll be able to deal with the councils that need dealing with and some of the public there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I've read the policy. It's comprehensive, and hopefully we don't have to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the councillors? Councillor Barney.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to sort of expand out on some of those points that Councillor Martin and Hollister have mentioned. It's going to be legislated that Council requires a policy from the 10th of September of this year, and it's for any conflict with or between councillors. And because it's embedded in the legislation, we have to have it. And this policy's been developed off the model one that Legat has offered out to all councils. So it makes sense, and it's something that by legislation has to happen this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? No, it's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of angst over the time. And now I see this as proper process. So it's a good thing that it can come into measure. If I could ask Councillor Hollister to close, please.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 5.2 is changes to the charges. If I could have a move of the recommendation, please.
So moved.
Councillor Moore, thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Moore.
This report just seeks to amend some unintended implications from the change before that to the structure of fees. It's good for community groups. It puts a cap on the amount of hours, and it also addresses any multiple bookings of multiple overs booked in the same booking. Happy to let it go through, because I think it will actually mean that people hire in Devonport rather than going to other regions.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, I think just moving to a per hour fee structure will really help and make it more available to more groups.
Thank you. Further comment, Councillor Murphy?
Yes, as the report states, it does provide us with an opportunity to actually get increased occupancy of these particular facilities on that more sort of casual basis. It's not necessarily the permanent sort of basis, but it does provide us a significant opportunity where organisations or groups or clubs can actually utilise those spaces on a sort of, a fixed fee basis and knowing what their exposure is going to be. So, look, I think it's a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Hollister?
It's an easy question. Weekends ago, I noticed there were some events advertised in the paper, and they, as usual, go to Birdie, Launceston, and Hobart. Is there anything in our fees that would actually prohibit some of these acts actually coming to Devonport?
Example?
Well, whether the three acts that were on the been advertised at the moment, but they go to Launceston, Hobart, and Birdie. I don't know whether
Were they on in an event space in a venue or out on a sporting ground?
that was an event space.
Which is a bit different to this.
Mm.
Right. Okay.
But our fees, obviously, it's not some people using our venues, so I was just wondering whether.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, I think as far as the fees go, we're comfortable that they're sort of pitched at the level where, we recoup some of the costs, but we don't discourage users. And if you look at the usage tables in the operational report later on, it shows that we're continuing to see increased usage of our indoor facilities. So we're not hearing anything that fees are discouraging people from coming. There's certainly getting upstairs, getting off topic a little bit, upstairs is certainly a premium venue, and obviously there's a cost that comes with that.
Actually, an example was, I think it was the show that little Paddy was in, and that went to the three places were not Devonport. So that's an example of it. And whether that's capacity, changing what can think of.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the councillors? If not, I will ask Councillor Moore to close the debate.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 5.3 is the Mersey-Leven Municipal Emergency Management Plan. Issue 5. If I could have a move of the recommendation, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. And a seconder?
So moved.
Councillor Martin, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
As it states, Mayor, the document has been reviewed and it's only for us to endorse.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did read the 77 pages of the emergency management plan. Found it to be, as always, interesting. Of course, this is a great example of four councils working together to create a plan that identifies and addresses risks and hazards. Also outlines the chain of commands and responsibilities of those involved, especially around emergency services. and communication, including communication to public. And I note that East Devonport Rec Centre is still a primary evacuation centre, as well as Wilmot Community Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the councillors? Councillor Fine.
Yeah, quick one. Thank you, Mayor. I'll just echo some of those sentiments from Councillor Martin. It is really a good example of the regional cooperation that we have, and we're fortunate to have between our neighbouring councils. And it's so important because if there's a flood, if there's a fire, if there's an emergency, it's not going to affect one council. I think everyone around this table is very aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. The comments? I might just say that the work that's involved behind the scenes is unbelievable. And the way that the four councils do work together, as Councillor Martin was saying, it's also not just pre-event, but after event. The debriefing that goes in, the involvement that they have, and the enthusiasm and passion that they show for their areas and their patches, and the way that they collaborate is just beyond. And of course, that's every level from SES police, ambulance, right through. And what the staff have to do and where they're at during an emergency is just second to none. I'm extremely proud of that group because of what they have to do. And when we're sitting inside in closed doors and it's terrible weather out there and we're all going, oh, it's awful, our power's off, just think about those people outside worrying about all the other things that are going on as well. And it's incredible what they get up to. So thank you. Councillor Murphy, to close.
Thank you, Mayor. The sentiment that's been expressed by my fellow councillors really does go to the level of professionalism that our, especially from our council's perspective, of when you look at the events that have occurred, whether it's fire or flood, and COVID and everything else, how well, as stated, the four councils do work together. And I think a lot of that, as you've already stated, goes to the commitment and the dedication from the people involved. And I think that's just another highlight of the fact of the area and the region we live in. You know, and my hat off to them. So I'm committed to council.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 5.4 is the financial management strategy for 24 through to 2033.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Happy to hand this one over to the rest of the council, Mayor, and I'll speak at you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, this is the next 10-year financial management strategy. Pleased to say that originally,
Councillor Hollister, if you like. Thank you, Councillor Martin.
I think this council actually had a 10-year financial plan well before it was actually legislated, right? So I can have that to have such a plan, so it's a strategy. I'm very pleased to say it's still in effect.
Thank you. Further comments from the councillors? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking through the strategy, it's great that we're thinking 10 years out, and it seems scary to think of something out to 2034. Now, where are we going to be in 10 years' time? But looking through it, obviously, we're setting the council up for success and putting ourselves in a strong financial position. And looking at a couple of the graphs that were in there, and these are things that I hadn't heard of an underlying surplus ratio before or a net interest coverage ratio before, but the people that put this document together and the finance team at council know their stuff. And we're well below, I guess, the benchmark for both of those parameters ongoing, not only now, but ongoing in the future. In particular, underlying surplus ratio. I think a comment that I've heard a lot before I got on council in the last 2 years is, council's dead, Devonport Council, the Wollongong Council's dead. And I normally respond to people like that with, well, don't you have a mortgage? Don't you understand how borrowing works? Because it's really no different unless Councillor Murphy proves me otherwise.
Thank you. Any further comment from the councillors?
Thank you.
Councillor Martin?
Thank you. Yes, it's a very intense document. Congratulations on the staff for putting it together. 10-year planning, where we'll be in 10 years. Hopefully I'm still around in 10 years' time. That's number one. Number two, this report actually, or strategy, puts a spotlight on council's dealings and financials over the next 10 years. And I think that's a good thing because it highlights any peaks and troughs, that allows council to address any concerns, make adjustments if need be. But I note that the media has sort of said that it's pointed out some negativities, and I think that's unfair because when we start looking at even our 6.3, and we start talking about we're getting a surplus, on our way to getting a surplus this year, which we haven't budgeted for, which we haven't even got into probably the 10-year plan. We don't know what's going to happen next year or the years after. And there's always opportunities to gain services because of development that may happen in our city, increased visitation, especially with the new spirits coming, etc. So I tend to look on the positive side on financial planning. I think Devonport has been in a very good situation for the last 12 to 13 years and continue to work towards keeping that level of having a spotlight on our financials and being agile enough to be able to address any concerns that may arise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? I certainly appreciated reading this. This is always probably the utmost important document for us to take note and understand, and also be aware of that, yes, it might be a 10-year strategy, but every year things can change. And that's what I think we know very well. This council has always been very clever at maintaining the sensible way to present that to the councillors. Each 4 years you get different councillors and they all have to get their heads around this operating budget and how it works. And I do know that, yes, the debt was always going to be an issue, and out there in simple terms, Devonport has a debt, but look at how we're flourishing while we have that debt and manage it beautifully. And we are going to grow our rate base. We are going to grow all these different aspects because of Living City, and therefore it shows that we will be in good stead going forward. You only have to read 3 or 4 of the lines that Nadine has put in here as the author here. I've lost the line that I was going to say. Sorry. I can't find the line now. That's all right. But it was in a nutshell saying literally that, yes, there's going to be a forecast. Currently, we are operating and making the debt being paid off as it is, but we understand that things will change with interest rates. We're aware of that. We don't need someone to write it into the paper to say that this is going to be trouble for us. We're aware of what we've got and what we need to do. And in a nutshell, I know that this council is being watched by the other 28 in this state for being one of the councils that really knows what they're doing. And that's what I'm very proud of every single time. Councillor Murphy's quote.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, I couldn't find the line.
It's all right. It's not a chicken little moment, although according to Mr. Sean Ford from the Advocate that it is.
Yes.
Obviously, it was a slow news day for them to report such dribble with respect to the financial position of council. People need to ask themselves, are we better off than what we were 5 years ago? The roof didn't fall in, did it? I think the next 5 years is going to prove we're really going to be better. The thing is this document is reviewed yearly. It's not just a 10-year plan, it's reviewed every year. Now, I know sitting around this table, some people get frustrated with my love of this particular document and our financial strategy and the growth of this council, and we've had fairly robust debates around setting of interest rates and the reasons why, sorry, not interest rates, the setting of annual rates and the reasons why we need to consider the decisions that we make. There's a couple of things that need to be pointed out. This council had 5 years of 0 rate increases. If we had have had 1% rate increases annually on those 5 years, I'm pretty sure Mr. Ford would be having a chicken little moment. Obviously, there needs to be a desire from the advocate to try and water down the success and progress of Devonport. Don't know why, but obviously it's just something that they desire with respect to looking to achieve a headline or sales for somewhat of a dwindling sort of piece of media. However, the other issue that we need to consider is the fact that this council embarked not only once Living City was coming to an end of being realised, which it still hasn't, it's still progressing, but we embarked on the residential growth strategy, which was a 2-year piece of work that was done to increase the ability to live here in Devonport. However, the state government needs to start to address that at the TPC level. The Statewide Planning Commission has a serious problem with the fact that when we have proponents pulling out of developments that provide the opportunity for 75 lot subdivisions to be created in our city, which only increases our revenue base, therefore it addresses some of the issues that potentially some may see as a problem, but there's not. I can go back 5 years ago when the forecast surplus for this council was sub $40,000. For that year, the actual surplus was 1.4 million. So we are very conservative in our estimations, and that is prudent that we be conservative. And for a document such as this to be criticised the way it has been, and something made out of nothing when there's no fact behind making some assumption, they need to do some historical work with respect to understanding where this council has come from. Yes, we are about to take on a significant piece of infrastructure that is going to impact our capacity with respect to depreciation. Now, I know my fellow councillors have heard me bang on about that before. However, if we are able to get some of the land that has been identified in that residential growth strategy rezoned, we won't have an issue with being able to meet our depreciation commitments. So without those things, and having a full understanding of the 9 people sitting around this table, it is our responsibility to understand what we're actually getting our community into. And we need to consider that. And this document provides the basis for us to make sound financial decisions on. So I commend the work that has been done. I criticise the media that has been put, and I think that they need to have a good hard look at themselves. And I think that we need to really start to highlight the fact that we are being hamstrung by the state government in our capacity of being able to grow. With that, I will commend the financial management strategy for recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Item 6 is information. 6.1 is the Mayor's monthly report. If I can have a move, please.
So moved.
Councillor
Yep, second.
Murphy and Councillor Viney. Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Considering it's Christmas, man, you're very busy.
Thank you, Councillor Viney.
Thank you, Mayor. Lots of events through that December period, even into January. And I'll note that you not only attended the Devonport Cup and judged fashions on the field, but you must have done such a stellar job at that. You also went to Burnie and also did a great job there, presumably.
I must know someone. Thank you.
No worries.
Any further comment or questions? If not, councillors, I need to close, please. Councillor Murphy, sorry.
Consider it closed.
Correct. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.2 is the CEO's report. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy and seconder.
Second.
Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
This will be the first CEO's report we've had presented, I believe. Or did we get one in December? I can't remember. It was a long time ago. No. So the first CEO's report. So yet again, there's a lot happening. Can the general manager give, the CEO, can you give us any advice with respect to, there's been a bit of media around the Valley Road, the Strikers development. And I noticed in your report that you were, you've been up there and had a look, and are they going to be sort of looking good?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, you had the opportunity to meet the president up there and tour the new site. I think that, yeah, they're looking forward to getting into it. It's got some great new change rooms, new viewing area. So hopeful of being open by the, about the second home match. So around the end of April, all going well.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. I have a question, CEO. Julie Burgess, regarding the proposed developments in the vicinity of their current berth, etc. What can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, through you, had a chance to meet with some members of the committee. There been some concern, I guess, that they wanted to point out in relation to the proposal for a new marina over there, and some of the redevelopment of the yacht club has been discussed, and just how that potentially might impact on their current berth. But we were able to talk through that with those committee members, and actually looking at a future meeting with members from those three different groups coming together and just working through how they can make it all work together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the councillors? If not, Councillor Murphy, should close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.3 is the monthly operational report. If we could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Viney, thank you. And a seconder.
Seconded.
Councillor Hollister, Councillor Viney.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, this operational report is absolutely chock-a-block with everything that the council does in many capacities and facets. And obviously there's a lot through, a lot of events and activities that were put on through December and then through to the school holidays. But there were a couple of trends that I picked up that I wanted to talk to. Building and planning permits was up, I thought, quite significantly for December. Was there a reason for that, or that just happened to be? Just happens.
Through you, Mayor, and traditionally people rush to get the permits in at Christmas.
Yeah.
3rd of December is one of our busiest days.
Yeah, so that would make sense. And then there was also a fairly large upswing in vehicle numbers to the waste transfer station, which I again assume there's people on holidays and cleaning up. So I had a couple of trips out to waste transfer myself, and on that, really looking forward to those updated ways of operating out there, and hopefully we recover more of that waste before it goes to landfill. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Couple of operational things. I've noticed that when you're walking around some of our tracks, our bins, a chock-a-block full and overflowing and stuff, that's stacked beside it. I think our truck drivers would know which ones they're doing in the different car parks and walking tracks. Mary Street wetlands at the moment is atrocious, and there's an excavator in there to clean it out a bit. Shade cloth and notices out over the bluff, which is great. And I went to even the city over east, and I think there was probably 2,000 to 3,000 people over there. I don't know the availability of coffee vans and stuff, but if there's any available, pretty sure they'll be appreciated over it.
Thank you.
That's all I've got, I think.
No problem. Any other further comments or questions from the councillors? Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. Desmond, notice in the report, increased views on social media. It was up by 117%, if I read that correctly. And as well as an increase of new users of our social media, up by 19%. It shows there's a lot of interest in the events and activities and services that are going on in Devonport. I noticed that parking was up 4% on budget, which could be argued that there's more people staying longer in Devonport in our CBD and spending money in the local businesses, and people visiting from outside our city to come and enjoy our retail and our services here. And that may well contribute to the revenue higher this budget at this stage by 908,000, and with expenses lower in our budget by 1.1 million, gives us a 2 million positive turnaround at the halfway point. So that's really positive coming into council, considering the media that we've experienced around the financial planning. Thank you.
Further comments from the councillors? I'll just say, if one person just says to me there's nothing to do in Devonport, come and see me. I've never seen the town so busy. The things that were going on left, right and centre. Actually, some people couldn't keep up. Some said, I have to pick and choose, there's too much going on. I love that. It was phenomenal. And there are so many people, you can't just begin to thank everybody, but just incredible, all the work that was done over the Christmas period. Every event was run really well. People enjoyed themselves. The atmospheres were great. Everybody had benefits every time they went to an event. And I find it strange that people say that just don't know what's going on in their own patch. It's a shame that people don't listen to the radio or read the news when they need to, or get on the right, perhaps Facebook links. If they're not on Facebook, come ring up council and ask what's going on, because we have a list a mile long. And I just to share the love amongst the surrounding councils as well. There was so much going on as well around there as well. And I suppose for everybody to say, we enjoyed that event, what next are you going to do? There is a limit on how much we can put on, but people can certainly come and see us and ask if they would like to put on an event or they've got an idea. This is your time to come and see us so we can help facilitate that as well. Thank you. If I could ask Councillor Money to close.
Thank you, Mayor. You've actually set me up nicely with how I was going to close. So it was remiss of me not to mention the Eve in the City. I got too caught up with everything that happened in Christmas, and it feels like a million years ago now, New Year's Eve. But my personal experience with both my boys, Kelly was working that night, but we parked at the Bluff. Plenty of parking when we got there because obviously with young kids, you get there early. We walked from the Bluff to Aikenhead Point, no problems, and it was a beautiful evening. And you know, we went prepared. We had our chairs, and we had a little trolley, and we had 1 can of Coke to split between the three of us, so that we didn't have to line up for a drink. And we got our Dagwood dog, and we got our chips early, and we had our one ride, and we had our one game, and it was brilliant. And the kids, this was the first time Ruben, who's just turned 4, was able to stay up. First time ever seeing fireworks. Wow, what a first experience for fireworks. They were amazing, sensational. And there were so many people at that 9:30 showing. There was just oars of excitement. I wish I could see. I had Ruben on my shoulders. I didn't see his face, but people would tap me on the shoulder and the little guys loving it. I remember there was people around me going, oh, wow, you know, that's so great. It's the best. It's the best. Someone, me, started to chant going, oh, thanks, Devonport Council. But again, I've corrected people about this afterwards because there was criticism about Devonport ratepayers paying for all those fireworks, but it was sponsored. So I think it's worth mentioning and deserves to be mentioned that it was Zero. Chaz Kelly, thank you very much. Zero, thank you very much. There was thousands of people down there. Council also was on the other side of the river. Another 2,000, but they didn't even go into the counts. You know, that's just something that the community has put on. I don't know the dollar figure that Zero sponsored that for. Can somebody lots? Let's say it's
Both lots.
yeah, for both lots. We didn't catch the second. What was the second showing the fireworks just as impressive as the first? Yeah, amazing. Well done to everyone involved with the eve of the city. And so, Mayor, you've mentioned like we can't, you know, you've got to have curb our expectations about what comes next. I can tell you what comes next. It's only a couple of weeks away. We've got the symphony by the waterfront. And how much does that cost a patron to get into?
It's free.
It's free. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Viney. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 6.4 is the audit panel. The information is all there. If I can have a mover, please, of the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Murphy, and Secretary, please.
Very good.
Councillor Martin, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Probably the only thing that's worth note is the increase in the remuneration proposed for the independent members of the committee. I'll provide my experience, having sat on this committee now for 6 years, that the amount of remuneration that is paid is well under the value of what they provide. So realistically, there's not too much there to add with that. That's we really need to be conscious of. But yes, I think that you should not have any issue with respect to arguing over that.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I concur with Councillor Murphy. My notes here is index remuneration for external independent members. I think it's correct that we provide that index because the work and value that they provide council is extensive, and kudos to them for what they do and how they help guide council with finances. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments, questions from the councillors? Councillor Hollister.
I can concur. I've been on the board panel for many years, and they're very coming forward in wanting to know questions about anything, and I believe our staff get them whatever answers to the questions they ask. So, and they give advice that's freely advised that whenever we ask for anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? If not, I will ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said, it cannot be underestimated the level of thoroughness that is provided to us, as we are also sitting there as independent members of the audit committee, but the guidance that we receive around our financial management strategy and the collaboration that that group does have with our appropriate people in that area, and then being able to convey that advice to the councillors to assist in providing a third eye over what's being proposed or presented, to give them a little bit more information around making sound decisions. With that, I will now commend to council.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7 is the closed session. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor Viney and Councillor Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Viney.
It's purely procedural, ma'am.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
I agree with Councillor Viney.
That's nice. Any further comments from the councillors? If not, Councillor Viney to close.
Thank you, Mayor. Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Therefore, we will be closing this session of the agenda at 6:39 p.m. precisely. Thank you to those from the public.